What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you my tournament report for my undefeated Darkworld profile. Now I know instantly undefeated sounds amazing. Unfortunately, it was undefeated because I drew more of my games than I did win. And so what I wanted to do with this video is I wanted to explain what I sided in, what I sided out, what I faced, how I changed the deck, what changes I would make, what worked really well, what didn't work really well. So just more of an in-depth breakdown of the deck, because the list itself hasn't really changed from previous versions that I have shown you. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So just going to blitz over the list so you can see exactly what we've got. So triple Genta, Snow and Rainbow, double Greffa, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 Cerulli, double Nessie, 2 Mothman, 1 Bigfoot, Thunderbird, Jackalope, Catalyzer, Zephyros the Elite, triple Gen, 1 Ken, double Field Spell, a Session, Archives, 2 Talents, 2 Frost, 2 Talents, Card Destruction, Dark Corridor, 2 Book of Eclipse, and 1 of the main deck evenly matched. So before I show you the extra deck and the side deck and everything else, let's break this down. What went well, what didn't go well, what did I face? So my local environment, there was 2 Pearlies, there was a branded Horus Chimera, which was very interesting, Mech Knights, Sword Soul, trying to remember exactly what else there was. There was another pure branded build, there was Runic Furhire. So basically I had to prepare for a range. There was even tier elements, so I had to prepare for a range. I ended up facing tier elements. I faced the branded Chimera Horus, which was tragically like such an insane matchup. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I then faced Pearly, which is what it is. It's just a big giant pain in the backside. And I faced Red Dragon Archfiend. So what went well, what didn't go well? Well, the Gen, absolutely amazing when Ken is not in the hand. There was a couple of times where I opened up Ken in the hand. In the game against the Horus matchup, they played the Chimera, and the Chimera ripped the Ken out of my hand. So I was like, okay, cool, my Gen in my hand is completely dead. So that one didn't go down so well. It's one of them ones that Gen was getting ashed as well quite a lot, which is great, because then it means all of my other cards were a little bit more free to kind of run around. But just losing that really did hurt. It was great when it went off. I was able to complete the hand rip like 2 or 3 times, which is absolutely insane. Not just through Gen, but like I would loop Cerulli twice. I'd make them put cards back. Especially in the tier matchup, I had to do everything I could in my power to make sure that they didn't discard the cards. And that was actually a really good game, because what he ended up doing is his hand wasn't the greatest, but he opened up tier cash. So as soon as I activated Silver once, put 2 of the cards back, he was like, okay, cool. And then when I went to do it again, he then forced the tier cash. So he summoned down the tier cash, he discarded a Fenrir, and he had banished the Fenrir from his hand, and then he had a Fenrir left in his hand, which obviously got put back. Couldn't get put back because Silver was in there, so I couldn't get rid of it. But what that then meant was the tier cash then milled cards, and what I was trying to do is I was trying to clear his board off without triggering their effects and everything else. It was a really good back and forth, but eventually, literally just during my turn, we both played, and I had to kind of break his board during my turn 0, which is insane, but really, really kind of cool. The other matchups, I just didn't move fast enough. Like, to complete the full hand rip, even if your opponent is not aware of what is going on, does take a bit of time. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes at least, I would say, to complete the hand rip, because everything is not like, nothing is defined, nothing is confirmed. Like, you're still revealing dangers to try and get there. You're still normal summoning Gens, maybe making Ceruges, activating Talents, activating Frost. Like, literally, the Talents, Frost, Gen, and Cerulli combo is absolutely mental. The amount of times they were like, I haven't activated a monster effect. I was like, yeah, you have. You activate Ken. Like, Ken's allowed me to trigger my card effects. I think I got hit by Droll once, but I was able to kind of play through that, which was absolutely fine. Again, the deck is very, very powerful. It's really cool, but it can kind of brick on you and it can work against you. Like in a Pearly matchup, I won game 1, did the full hand rip. Game 2, the grind game went on, and my opening hand was Gate of the Dark World plus Salamander Catalyzer, Gen, and I had no way to get another Fiend to the graveyard or no other Fiend in my hand. And I think I revealed a danger, and they hit the danger, and it was like, okay, cool, I'm not able to progress further at this point. So that is the downside, is when your dangers do get sniped, that's where the deck kind of goes, oh, okay, my luck is not running out, but I'm not able to get what I need to. Like, it's definitely a luck-based deck, because when you're revealing a danger, you want the danger to not get hit, which you can never guarantee because it's a dice roll. unless you're playing with loaded dice, which is cheating, so not allowed to do that. And then you're wanting them to hit a specific dark world. So if you're trying to, okay, well, I want to try and clear my hand out so that when they do roll the dice for a danger, I've got more chance of hitting that dark world. You're then also increasing the chance of them hitting a danger. So it's give and take, works really, really well. I did have a lot of fun with the deck. It's very powerful. All I knew is that I need to move faster. And one thing that I definitely want to be doing is I want to be putting the coach trainer giant trainer back into the extra deck, because you do need a win con in time. Heck, even if I don't put that in there, I definitely want to put in something like Gargoyle Cowboy, because like I said, it does take so long for you to build your boards, whether you're going first or going second. And the irony is, I lost most of my dice rolls, which is really annoying. But because I was playing the board breakers like Evenlies, Talents, and Thrusts in the main deck, it was just so much easier to kind of break a board apart and then build off the back of it. And then this deck is very good at being an OTK push. So that's it for the main deck. I'm going to switch over to the extra deck, and then when I show you the side deck, I'll show you the cards that I was taking out and putting back in as well. For the extra deck, we were playing 2 of the Grepher Fusion Dragon, 1 Baguska, Daenerys, Hope Harbinger, SP Little Knight, Muckraker, Akashic Magician, IP, Crossheap, Unicorn, Appaloosa, Zelantis, Skuldred, and Underworld Goddess. Now, a lot of these put in quite a lot of work. So the Underworld Goddess put in a lot of work for me. So did SP Little Knight and Muckraker and Akashic. Like all of those, and even Crossheap were like MVPs of the entire deck. Loved it. Hope Harbinger I never made. So again, that's probably like the closest one that I would flex out. I still like the World Sea Dragon Zelantis, because again, not a lot of people actually expect it or know what it does, and not aware of the Fiend lock between the mark. So for those of you, again, that are not aware, I pretty much mention this in every single one of my profiles, but the idea is you make Saruja, you do your draws, you do whatever you need to do, you turn Saruja into Zelantis, and then using the special summon off of the back of Saruja or the other monster is you make Muckraker, use Muck's effect to discard a card, locking you into Fiends, and then you activate Zelantis to banish the entire board, and then because it's you that's bringing all the monsters back on your board and your opponents, you can only bring back Fiends. So as long as they don't have any Fiends on their board, you can't bring anything back, which is really, really kind of cool. But then you can still bring back your board, and your board will ultimately end up leading you into OTK, because you still have very cool Fiend options. That's pretty much it on the extra deck. There's not really more that needs to be said. If you want to, this would probably be the Giant Trainer, just because I want that option, or Cowboy. I think Cowboy might be a little bit more consistent, just to kind of get you that little bit of damage on the board. But then I'm also kind of considering, well, if I do that, then I might put Brow back in. No, Brow's a draw one. I might put the level 4 that summons itself when it's discarded, because then that just helps the Gargoyle Cowboy option. Or I'll put Cowboy in the side deck and side it in for games free. I think the one thing that I need to get used to, specifically going to this locals, and a lot of people do this as well, is there's not a clock constantly ticking around. You have to keep asking for the time. So it's obviously always advised that you start a clock when the timer starts, but I feel that the timer gets started and then everyone's getting sat down, getting ready. So by the time we actually start to play, it's probably about 35 minutes. So you need to be very aware of the time around you. But yeah, so that's it for the extra deck. I'm now going to reset this. I'll show you my side deck that I took to the event as well. Here is the side deck that I took to the event. So triple Droll, double Kurakara, Nib, and Lava Golem, double Dark Ruler, Cosmics, Eradicator, and D-Barrier. Now, keeping in mind that the Eradicator, D-Barrier, and Dark Ruler were in here because I was already playing Triple Tactics Thrust, so arguably I could play Dark Ruler at 1 and fit in like a third Lava Golem or something else. What you also need to keep in mind as well is that when you're putting in something like Lava Golem, you won't be able to use your Ken and Gen in the same turn, so that's something you need to sacrifice. Now this is where I'm going to show you what I usually would take out for specific cards. Depending on whether, like more times than not, if I'm going first, I would keep the deck as it is. There isn't really anything here that I would want to add in, apart from something like Eradicator or D-Barrier, just because, just being able to deal with what my opponent would throw at me. So with the type of matchups I had, there were certain cards that were coming straight out and there were certain cards that were going straight in. So if I was up against, for example, if I was up against the tier element matchup, instantly I took out Mothman and Card Destruction, because these are both beneficial to my opponent. It's not worth the risk that they hit the Mothman and then we both are drawing and discarding. I do not want my opponent playing during my turn, so cards like this was coming out, and that's where cards like Lava Golem would go in, Nibiru would go in, Cosmics, Drolls, you name it. Now, Card Destruction again is very, very risky in the tier element matchup, so these definitely came out. In most of my matchups, when I knew I was going to be going second again, what I would take out is I would actually take out the Catalyzer, the Zephyros, the Ceruli, and the Silver. And more times it was the Ceruli rather than the Silver, for the pure fact that I'm not going to hand loop my opponent if I'm going second, more times than not. Like if I'm going second, it's very rare that my opponent's going to have a full hand that I can utilize, and that's where Gen would probably come in a bit more effective for me. So when I was taking these 4 cards out, as you can imagine, board breakers were going in. That's where if my opponent was heavy combo, nibs were going in. If they were ending their board on very strong monsters, Lava Golem was going in. If they were using monsters that activated their effects multiple times, then Kurakara was going in. Search the Lot, Drolls, Board Presence, Dark Rulers. So you kind of got the essence of everything you needed. The only thing that I would have liked to have put more in here was more back row hate, more something like a Harpy's Feather Duster, for the pure fact that, again, I was playing Talents anyway, and a Lightning Storm, so that would have been a bit more consistent for me. Unfortunately, I didn't have them on me when I got there, and I'm in an RN on what changes to kind of make and what to do. Another card that I would take out sometimes was Book of Eclipse. If I ever landed into the branded matchup, I was like, this isn't as great as I would like it to be. Like, they can still fuse. Yes, it's good to deal with the board, which is absolutely fine, and push in for the OTKs. So this was another card that I would consider taking out. Everything else, more times than not, like unless I knew I was 100% going first, I would probably take out the gold. But even then, this was quite a nice card to have, just because, and what I really like about gold that a lot of people undervalue now, is when you're giving your opponent a Ceruli and you're giving them a Ken, being able to actually discard gold off of a Ken or a Ceruli will let you clear those both off. Now, sometimes it's more beneficial to leave them with at least one monster on the board, for the pure fact that when you're leaving a monster on the board, it means that they can no longer use Lightning Storm, Evenly Matched, or Imperm, unless the Imperm is obviously previously set. So that does really kind of cut down the options they have. The only issue is, more times than not, bar Ceruli, if you're using your Ken and Gen and they have an Imperm, they're going to Imperm that Ken or Gen. Whereas if you Ceruli them, that's your better way of turning everything off early doors, and then you can still leave them with one monster on the board. Ultimately, if you end up giving them Ceruli, Ken, and then you have the ability to get the Ken back, normal to Ken, give them again, you're still in a good position. And keeping in mind as well that when you've ripped your, by the time you attempt to use gold to pop both those cards, you would have whittled their hand down to one card. If they have kept that one card being an evenly matched, and keeping in mind that evenly matched then gets met with the Grepher Fusion Dragon anyway, they're looking at top decking their one card combo starter, if they have it, and holding on to something like a Dark Ruler or an Evenly to help you bait out or break the board. So that was kind of my thought process into something like that. Like I said, I really do enjoy this deck. I think it's such a cool deck. It is incredibly painful when it bricks on you. Like if it bricks on you, like, I hate this deck, I want to put it in the bin. When it doesn't brick on you and you complete the full hand rip, you feel degenerate, but it is kind of cool going through all the motions of, will they hit the danger, won't they hit the danger, can I break this board, everything else like that. So with the branded Horus matchup, I drew that one. I won game 1. It was a bit of a grind because I just didn't know exactly what was going on. Game 2, they won that one. And then we had 5 minutes left going into game 3. And I had no burn con. And I was like, I could let them go first. If they play Masquerade Dragon, I'm in a little bit of trouble. But obviously there's only going to be one battle phase. So I let them go first, let them build the board. Luckily they didn't have Masquerade Dragon. I then tried to get a monster on the board to do a little bit of damage while playing around a couple of card effects that were going on. And then ultimately the time was called. So that ended in a draw. Round 2 was against Red Dragon Archfiend. I won game 1 pretty quickly, did the hand loop. Game 2, the grind game came into play and he just kept looping back the Nova Dragon, so banishing the board. I had to kind of out it a couple of times. And then shockingly to me, he was playing 2 red zone. So I got rid of 1 red zone. I was like, right, okay, cool, the grind's over. And he was like, okay, set a card, pass, flip the red zone. I was like, no! So that kept coming back into it. Plus, he then activated Red Resonator to gain life points off the back of the Red Nova Dragon. So he gained 5,500 life points. So I wasn't able to deplete the life points enough, and then time was called during that game because it was such a grind. Round 3 was against Tier Elements. Tier Elements, unfortunately, I was able to complete the full hand rip. Like I said, there was a really good matchup back and forth during my turn. But ultimately, because I was able to pick that board apart, I made Underworld of the Goddess, ripped their hand down to 1 card. The top deck wasn't enough to kind of unlock them, and that was it. That was game. Game 2, they tried to build a board. I was able to break it. Well, it bricked a little bit. Like, he literally just set 1 and then made normal summon Medora and passed. So I was able to break that board apart and then OTK. The final round was up against Pearly. Game 1, I completed the full hand rip. It did take about 15 minutes because I played for an Ash. Not that Ash is a major thing, but when you play stuff like Kens and Gens and they Ash Agenta or something earlier on, you then have ways of being able to build off the back of that. So won that game, went into game two. Game two was a bit of a grind, going back and forth. Ultimately, I thought I could win that duel, which is why I didn't scoop it. And then when he was starting to build his board and comboing off, and I was like, how long's left? 10 minutes. I was like, all right, okay, cool, scoop it. So I scooped that one. We went to game three. I started to build my board up. I got hit with an Ash. My board wasn't as great as I wanted it to be, but it was still pretty good. They went standby phase, main phase, or yeah. Battle phase, I went, okay, cool, activate D barrier, stop them going into XYZs. They then evenly the board. I left a Fenrir on the board because I stole it from them. Yeah, that was quite a funny interaction actually. As I got them to Ceruli my Greffer. The Greffer then got to take one from my opponent's hand and summon it if it was a monster, and it was a Fenrir. I was like, broken, I'll take that. But then annoyingly, I got rid of the Ceruli. If I'd left the Ceruli there, that's a perfect example where evenly matched wouldn't have come into play at all. But even then, evenly matched, he then searched out My Friend Pearly, and then as he was about to activate My Friend Pearly, time got called, he was like, okay, well, not going to activate My Friend Pearly, just going to pass, and then it ended in a draw. So again, it was great back and forth in that game. I feel that the game two was so difficult because I was in a position where I was like, right, okay, I've got this, and I was literally just sitting on a Kurakara and then constantly reviving his Fenrir. Eventually, he was able to combo off. He got past the Kurakara, and then at that point, as he started to build into combo, I was like, right, okay, cool, scoop. 10 minutes will be more than enough. I don't know how much time was actually left by the time we got into the game. But I mean, I probably spent about 3 minutes on my turn. I'm not too sure after that point, but either way, I need to move a little bit faster, or I feel I do need to have a win con in the deck for time, and that's where Cowboy is a consideration, and so is the Giant Trainer. Obviously, Giant Trainer is great because it gives you the draw and the burn, but I feel that Cowboy is a lot easier to make because it's a generic rank 4, whereas the Giant Trainer is 3 level 8s, which unless I put the Diabolica back in and focus on the level 8s a little bit more, maybe even play a Chupacabra, it does kind of take the deck into a different direction and you play more cards that you don't really want to and can be more bricks for you. But also, when you're considering something like Lava Golem, playing something like Trading is also a good option. So, I don't know. It still needs a little bit of work. Again, I love the adaptation of this deck. I love that it can go one way or the other. I do think it's really kind of cool. I wish Trading was discard as effect, because then that would be the most insane staple for this deck. Like, Trading, draw 2, Rainbow Search. Broken. Anyway, that is it for the profile. Any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I hope this type of video breakdown is better for you. Obviously, I'll be more than happy to do this as a tournament report post a tournament where the list hasn't changed. So like, if I show you a new list prior to the tournament, take it to the tournament, and then give you a breakdown afterwards, then if that is more preferred for you guys, then make sure you let me know in the comments below, or smash the like button to show you appreciate this type of video. I'll be more than happy to do it for you. I did try to record some duels for this, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. So I will try and get some duels recorded for this later on as well. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.